Hi Rockstars, this is Beth Azor. I wrote a book called The Retail Leasing Playbook. This podcast will go over a few chapters each week to discuss the highlights of how you can lower your vacancy and increase your occupancy. I hope you enjoy it.
Today we will be talking about Chapter 66, getting an appointment with a national at a big conference. So obviously, in my opinion, preparation here is the key. Figure out and create a target of the top 20 or 10 or 15 national retailers you want to meet with at the next ICSC or Retail Live. Then go to, in case of ICSC, you can see if those retailers are registered. You can also DM them on LinkedIn to see if they're attending, but I would do my research first to see if you can find out if they're attending by an advanced registration, so then you don't have to bombard them with emails, etc. Then the next thing I recommend is that you make sure that you know what their requirements are and that they actually fit in the space you would like to meet with them about. So if Chipotle, for example, now only wants to have drive-thrus and your site doesn't have a drive-thru, you may still reach out to them because I don't want you to say no for the prospect, but in the email, you should be very transparent. I know that you all want drive-thrus. My site doesn't have a drive-thru. However, and then list, 1, 2, 3 reasons why you still want to submit the site. Like, I've attached a map and your nearest locations are 8 miles away. I have a hospital with 1 million visitors and a university with 30,000 students. That would be a good email to send to see, would you be interested in my site and would you like to meet at the ICSC? So the other thing that I highly recommend you all do is to do some social media research. You may find out that the real estate manager who you've never spoken to before or met went to the same college that you did. And how great would that be if you knew that before you sat down in a meeting? Or in one case, I had one of my students who was reaching out to Floor & Decor, 80,000 square foot tenant, and she went to his Facebook page, which was not private, and he talked about his love of dogs and that he was a Georgia Bulldog fan. So when they had a meeting, she opened with, I have dogs, and my dad went to the University of Georgia, or I guess that's the school, and they're Georgia Bulldog. He's a Georgia Bulldog. So sometimes people in my classes, when I bring this up, say, oh, isn't that creepy? Well, my friend did not think it was creepy at all. He loved it. I think that people are people, and when someone does a little extra homework, I think they appreciate that. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. And if that separates you from the rest of those meetings that they have, like, oh, that person knew I went to college and that I like dogs, and we talked 20 minutes about dogs before we talked about the site, they're going to remember that meeting over the other 10 people that did no homework, no research, because they were worried that they were being creepy and stalking. So that is my advice in how you get an appointment with national at a conference. Do your homework, do your preparation, do your research, and I think it'll turn out well for you. I hope this helped. Happy leasing.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. I hope you learned a few nuggets to help increase occupancy and lower vacancy. See you next week, where we'll go over a few more chapters of my book, The Retail Leasing Playbook. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. I hope you learned a few nuggets to help increase occupancy and lower vacancy. See you next week, where we'll go over a few more chapters of my book, The Retail Leasing Playbook.